Good morning, and thank you all for being here today. I'm Jerica Holtzclaw with the Missouri Department of Transportation. It is a great honor to stand alongside Governor Parson and our federal partners today to announce funding for rail safety in Missouri. Before we get started, we need to acknowledge the tragic circumstances that occurred last year. On June 27th of 2022, a fatal Amtrak crash near Mendon, Missouri injured many passengers and took the lives of 4 people. Before proceeding, I'd like to ask the crowd to join me in a moment of silence for those who lost their lives in this incident. Thank you. Out of the darkness of this tragedy, today we ignite a new focus on rail safety in the state of Missouri. Joining us today to discuss rail safety are our speakers, Missouri Governor Mike Parson, National Transportation Safety Board Chair Jennifer Homendy, the Federal Railroad Administrator Amit Bose, and the Director of the Missouri Department of Transportation, Patrick McKenna. I'd also like to take a moment to recognize a few of those in the crowd today as well for your continued support. The Missouri Highways and Transportation Commissioners Greg Smith and Warren Erdman, Sarah Graff with the United States Representative Sam Graves' office, Representative Tim Taylor, and our partners in the railroad industry. It takes all of these groups, organizations, and interested parties to continue to prioritize safety for all travelers in the state of Missouri. And today really is a culmination of that effort. Now I'd like to invite the Missouri Highways and Transportation Commissioner Greg Smith forward.
Thank you, Jerica. Good morning, everyone. It's great to be here this morning. The funding Missouri is receiving for rail safety improvements is thanks in large part to Governor Parson. His leadership in the budget process to dramatically increase funding for railroad safety crossings is a huge step forward in addressing the elimination of passing crossings in Missouri. Great job. And with that being said, I'd like to introduce the 57th governor of the great state of Missouri, Governor Mike Parson.
Thank you, Greg. Thank you. Thank you, Greg. And good morning to everyone. And for our guests on the federal level, thank you all for coming today and for who you represent. And also, I want to thank, I know there's some legislators that I met as I come in the room. I want to thank them for the work that they've done. The representatives and senators for following us on a vision, trying to make Missouri safer. I want to thank anyone that's here from the Mendon community. If you're here, I want to thank you all for being here today, and for all the things that we're moving this state forward. I think when we talk about the rail safety today, here's what the main theme of this is going to be today, but it's much bigger than that in our state. One of the things we realize that we have to do a better job on infrastructure every day. And I think this administration, without a doubt, has made it a number one priority. And I think you're starting to see things happen, whether it's through funding, through legislative such as texting and driving, such as our railroad crossings. For years and years, we've not been able to address the issue like we should have. And I think it's unfortunate things happen sometimes that are tragic events. That's probably a wake-up call for all of us, but I think you can see now we're serious about moving forward, and with MoDOT's help and Patrick's leadership in this building of what they're going to be asked to do and tasked to do. So this year, when we were able to take $50 million and dedicate it strictly to railroad crossings, is a game changer for the state of Missouri. There's lots of good things that's going to happen out of that, but hopefully it is the beginning of a path that we can continue on to do what needs to be done for these rail crossings all over the state, whether it's in small communities or bigger communities. But we know it's an issue that we're going to have a great opportunity to make Missouri citizens much safer, and people that ride the rail and the freight that goes down that rail and the people that utilize those rail lines are going to be able to be part of that. You know, Patrick McKenna, our directors, had a tremendous responsibility in time. You're running an agency like MoDOT. There's lots of things goes on every day from all aspects of the state. I first want to say thank him for the changes he's been able to adapt to, and this organization has been able to adapt to and what we're doing in this state and how much we have increased the infrastructure portion of our state. So I want to thank him and his staff for doing that. I want to thank the National Transportation Safety Board Chair, Jennifer Homney, who's here with us today. I had a chance to visit with her outside a little bit, so I will tell you this. I think she can stand on her own 2 feet without a doubt and make the calls and say what it needs to be done to make things safer in this country and in our state. And the Federal Railway Administration, Administrator Amit Bose, I want to thank you for being here today to be part of this, to do that. So again, I think there's going to be lots of people today that's going to talk about what happened in Minden. I know there's a report come out yesterday talking about the cause of that accident, so there'll be some clarification on that, and then we'll be able to answer some questions after this. I think we also have to realize that we've got more than 1,400 roads across railroads with no active lights or gates. So that's a tremendous amount of space out there and roads that have to cross those every day. And while we all need to do a better job, including not only MoDOT, but the citizens need to do a better job and make sure we're doing all the safety requirements it takes to be able to do that. And as a result, House Bill 4 last year, with the help of a lot of people in the legislative branch, we were able to secure $50 million in general revenues to improve safety at Missouri's public railroad crossings. And I think when you look at that, our first priority to improve safety is the 47 passive public crossings of passenger rails across there. A lot of that's going to be the Amtrak when you get into the details of it. The one reason that I wanted to be here today is, number one, the Minden issue was a terrible tragedy, to say the least. People lost their lives. The driver lost a life. There's passengers lost their lives. But I also want to commend the people that were there that day for the work that they did to help. And when you look back on that day, when you look at the local communities, the local emergency responders, the state, everybody that was involved in trying to deal with a very tragic situation, I don't think it could have been done any better for what happened that day. It's unfortunate lives were lost, unfortunate it ever happened in the first place, but the truth is it's about picking up the pieces after a tragedy. And I'm proud of Missouri citizens for what they did that day. I'm proud of what the emergency personnel done that day. And I want to make sure and remind everyone what that day was to that community. With that, it's about moving forward. It's about not letting it happen again. It's about figuring out ways that we can do it better. And that's exactly why we're here today, and to make sure that I say my thanks on the federal level for everybody involved here that's helping us in this state. And more importantly, to make sure to ask that we continue that support and that we move forward in the state of Missouri. So with that, thanks everybody for being here. And I'm going to turn it back over to Patrick or whoever's next up. Patrick.
Governor Parson, thank you for your leadership. Your leadership across the board in workforce development and infrastructure, and your consistent and persistent focus on that has moved this state forward in so many ways. It's going to be felt for generations, your leadership. And I am so honored to be here with our federal partners. NTSB Chair Hamady, thank you for coming out and for the work that you do on behalf of the citizens of this country to keep us safe while we're traveling around just trying to do our work and get where we're going. And Administrator Bose, your partnership, your stewardship of your agency, and the work that you do is vital across this nation. We've been great partners. We want to build on that partnership and improve safety. You know, the top focus here is prioritizing work on 3 passenger rail lines. This is why we're here. And what I want to say right from the start is, you know, you come into a role, you look at the things that are in front of you, you look at the way things are. And the way things are and the way things have been in Missouri has been an underinvestment in some of the critical infrastructure for several decades now. That's no one's particular fault. That's all of our fault, right? That's not any one person, any one organization, any one party, but it's all of our fault. And as a person responsible here at MoDOT, I don't think I did a good enough job of explaining to the public the issue that we faced, the underinvestment in dealing with local road systems and the private crossings that exist on the state. And how can you sit here and ask public policymakers to respond to information they don't have. As Governor Parson said, Mendon was a wake-up call, and it was a wake-up call for that. What can we do as a state, even beyond the state system? We've worked diligently over the years on the state highway system to close those crossings where we could, to upgrade them to active controls. And I'm pleased to say that more than 95% on the state highway system are already complete today. But there's a big gap, and it's a gap that exists for the public, and that's on the local road system and those crossings that occur. As Governor Parson said, there are 1,422 locations in Missouri where roads cross these tracks without warning lights and gates. 47 of those are on the lines that carry passenger rail. All of these 47 passive crossings are on roads owned by local county or city governments. Since the June 27th Amtrak crash that unfortunately killed 4 people in Sheridan County, what we did when we brought a more aggressive budget for it, I want to thank our commissioners that are here, Commissioner Smith and Commissioner Erdman. The Missouri Highway and Transportation Commission told us to do it better. What are we not doing? What can we do faster? So we put a budget request in, well received by the governor, brought forward in his budget, and we were thrilled that the General Assembly acted on that and brought forward $50 million. But before that money was available, starting at the beginning of this fiscal year, we decided, based on all that good advance work, Jerica and her team in our rail section came to me with a plan. They said, let's go out and study these corridors. Let's put an RFP out. Let's get some information so that we can hit the ground running when the fiscal year hits. And that's what we did. We chartered independent studies. They're now completed, and it's part of what we're making public today to provide a quarter-long comprehensive approach recommending various improvements to enhance safety, reduce exposure, and eliminate grade crossing conflict points. Now, the instruction that I had for our consulting teams was I didn't want them to be influenced by MoDOT. I didn't want them to be influenced by the rail industry, and I didn't want them to be influenced by the local communities. What we wanted is a data-driven approach that was objective so that we could have a starting point that we could start working for. Recommendations vary for each location in terms of complexity and cost, ranging from advanced warning enhancements, crossing realignment, approach grade improvements, flashing lights and gates, upgrades, closures, new roadway connections, and ADA sidewalk improvements. Of the 47 rail crossings that are still passive, the study recommends 27 to be upgraded with lights and gates. 17 are recommended to be closed, and 3 will get some other type of treatment, like a security gate or other treatment itself. You know, it's important for some crossings to be closed and consolidated because even with lights and gates, nearly 50% of vehicle crashes occur at a crossing that has lights and gates. We just experienced that just this week. That's not always the final solution or the total solution. When there are multiple crossings close together, it's important to objectively consider consolidation for overall public safety. MoDOT's going to be meeting. This is the start of public engagement. We've worked in advanced work with the rail industry and with our county association. I'm deeply grateful for the work already that has gone into this and for the partnership that is forming and growing as we attack this issue. We're going to be meeting with the communities along the passenger rail corridors that have these 47 remaining crossings. We're looking for communities who want to make their crossing safety. We can get to work quickly on this, and that's what the public expects. That's what the governor expects. That's what the commissioner expects, and we owe it to the public to get moving. We want to show progress so that we can renew this program in future budgets. You know, how many we can get improved is going to depend on the cooperation from communities and the railroad companies. Our goal is to make as many improvements that have been recommended as possible in the next 12 months. In addition to the focus on passenger rail crossings, MoDOT will make $3 million available to local communities to apply for additional advanced signage on roads as drivers approach railroad crossing. These crossings could already have lights and gates, but additional advanced warning signs can further alert drivers to the situation ahead. That program is going to be activated as soon as we're done here this morning. It'll be out on our website. We're also working with the rail industry on a potential grant to address passive crossings on its line through Missouri. And finally, I'm pleased to announce today that MoDOT will begin studies of 4 additional rail corridors that are freight only. These studies will provide an independent review and recommendations for a variety of improvements or consolidations and closures on those lines, like today's report focused on the 3 passenger lines. This is critical information working in partnership with our partners at the federal level at Federal Rail Administration. They have several discretionary grants available. We're going to be very aggressive in the pursuit for that. We want to leverage up as much of this $50 million, partner that with federal funds, and grow this program well beyond the passenger rail issue itself. So I want to stop there. I want to thank everybody for being here. I'm so grateful for the partnership that we share at the federal and at the state and at the local level with private industry, with the rail lines. It's going to take us all working together, making some tough decisions, understanding that our objectives are public safety. We're going to have to make some hard choices. I'm confident we're going to be able to do that. We're going to make this progress, and we're going to make improvements and make Missouri one of the safest states in the nation for moving our nation's freight and for accepting passenger rail travel through our state. So thank you so much for being here, and I'll turn it back over to Jerica.
The National Transportation Safety Board helps hold our transportation system to the highest of safety standards. We're thankful to have them join us today, and I'd like to welcome NTSB Chair Jennifer Homendy. She was sworn in as the 15th chair of the NTSB in August of 2021. During her career, she has worked in various positions regarding transportation safety, including serving as a staff director on the Subcommittee of Railroads, Pipelines, and Hazardous Materials for the Committee on Transportation and Infrastructure in the U.S. House. I'm pleased to ask NTSB Chair Jennifer Homendy to share some remarks.
Thank you, and it really is an honor to be here today. Governor, thank you so much for inviting me here today, you and Patrick. It means a great deal to us at the NTSB. I do want to recognize our investigator in charge for the Mendon tragedy, Joey Ryan, is also here today. Very rarely do they get to see everything from start to finish of an investigation and to see the after action. And I really appreciate that and appreciate all that our workforce does for safety for our nation. Joey, you did an incredible job, not just on scene, but throughout your tenure at the NTSB. And I can't tell you how much it means to everyone at the NTSB, but certainly everyone throughout our nation benefits from your hard work. Thank you so much. I do know that there are a number of state and local representatives, commissioners who are here today. I know we don't have a lot of time for everyone to make remarks, but I would love it if you would come up here, because I think what we experienced as a result of a terrible tragedy that took 4 lives, that injured close to 150 people, Amtrak passengers, crew members, a driver. I think it was a terrible tragedy, and I do want to start with we talk about numbers a lot when it comes to fatalities, but those who died, those who were injured, may still be suffering injuries, whether they are physical or psychological. We don't talk about that a lot. That stays with folks for years. And I just want to say on behalf of the NTSB, for those who are surviving family members and friends for those that died, how truly sorry we are at the NTSB. We are an agency that focuses on one thing, and that's preventing such a tragedy from reoccurring. And just know that even though our report came out yesterday, we never forget. we continue to focus on safety. And so our hearts are with you today, in the days ahead, in the weeks ahead, in the months and years ahead. Just know that. I do want to say this, today is really the result of a partnership. It is, from the governor, from Administrator Bose at the Federal Railroad Administration. At the time when I was in Mendon, I also spoke not just with Amit, but acting Administrator Stephanie Pollock from the Federal Highway Administration to talk to her about resources for Missouri. We had the president of Amtrak on scene, Stephen Gardner. We had folks from BNSF, including Aaron Rutledge. I reached out and spoke to, Aaron Ratledge. I reached out and spoke to the Sheridan County Commissioners, Evan Emmerich, Jared Meyer, and Terry Milford. And at the time, I had stated at one of our press conferences that we were going to have a meeting, that I was going to bring together everybody, and also the Missouri Department of Transportation. I was going to bring everybody together and have a conversation, because I looked around when we were on scene and I said, wow, I know the heads of all these entities, and we can do something here. We can improve safety, not only for Mendon, but throughout Missouri. And so we brought everyone together to start that conversation. And everyone started from the place of yes in that room. The county commissioners showed up. And I will tell you, I spent time with a great person, Mike Spencer, who is a local farmer in Mendon. He had me, at his house. We sat in a barn and talked about what he experiences when he's operating his combine and he comes up at that grade crossing, which at the time was incredibly steep. So I just want to say how it's a unique circumstance here. It's very rare that everyone comes together to figure out how to improve safety. And I'm really touched by that. People did die, people were injured, but we want to make sure it doesn't happen again. And something good came out of something terribly tragic. And so I just want to thank everybody here. We did issue our final report on Mendon. I think it speaks volumes for the governor's actions, for Patrick's actions, and for others in this state, that we didn't issue safety recommendations because action was already taken. That really is incredible. We rarely see that at the NTSB. And, this is just a great example of teamwork. And so thank you very much, Governor. Really. And thank you, Patrick. I think just an incredible job. I will close with that. And actually sorry, I see you clapping. One thing I do want to mention, and the governor mentioned this, there were a lot of men and women on scene. It really was entire counties coming together for something terribly tragic after the derailment, after the collision. We had the Missouri Division of Fire Safety, Missouri State Highway Patrol, Missouri State Emergency Management Agency, Missouri Department of Conservation, the Sheridan, Macon, Lynn, and Randolph County Sheriff's Departments, Macon and Brookfield Police Departments, countless other agencies. We had medical providers, nurses reaching out, and the brave Boy Scouts from Troops 12 and 73 out of Appleton, Wisconsin. These young men helped their fellow passengers evacuate the train and administer first aid to the wounded in a terribly tragic collision. I just want to thank you for everything you all did.
The Federal Railroad Administration also plays an integral role in safety standards of Missouri's railroads. I'm honored to introduce our next speaker, Federal Railroad Administrator Amit Bose. He has served in this role since January of 2022. He also serves as the FRA Administrator during the Obama-Biden administration and worked for the U.S. Department of Transportation and the New Jersey Department of Transportation. Please welcome Federal Railroad Administrator Amit Bose.
Good morning. I am pleased to be here with you all today for such an important announcement from the Missouri Department of Transportation on such a vital topic, highway rail crossing safety. Thank you, Governor Parson, for your leadership and your efforts to make daily life safer for Missouri's motorists, rail passengers, and community members. I want to recognize Director McKenna and Missouri's Department of Transportation for identifying grade crossings for improvements and your focus on safety. In addition, I want to acknowledge the work of the Missouri Legislature, also FRA's ongoing continuous work with your congressional delegation, including Chairman Graves and your senators on rail safety. The Federal Railroad Administration is proud of our longstanding relationship and partnership with Missouri DOT and the state. We've invested more than $103 million in rail infrastructure here since 2016. We're eager to identify even more opportunities to work together with Missouri. The Federal Railroad Administration's top priority is always safety. This guides our actions and our infrastructure investments and underpins departmental initiatives like the Department of Transportation's Executive Safety Council. I know that this is a priority that the National Transportation Safety Board and Chair Homendy shares. I want to thank her for all she does in the name of rail safety. The reality is, incidents at grade crossings remain far too common, not just here, but nationwide. As we saw with the tragic accident in Mendon a year ago, such events can be of the highest consequences and have far-reaching effects, not just for drivers, but the people on board those trains and the people who operate the trains. Approximately 2,000 collisions and more than 200 casualties occur at grade crossings every year. That's an unacceptable status quo. At the federal level, President Biden's Investing in America agenda is helping to decrease these numbers. In June, the Federal Railroad Administration announced $570 million for 63 projects across the country to improve approximately 400 crossings in 32 states. And with the $3 billion in that crossing elimination program funds available over 5 years, thanks to the Infrastructure Investment and Jobs Act, more improvements are on the way. It's also true through future rounds of railroad crossing elimination program, as well as several other FRA programs that we have ongoing, including the Consolidated Rail Infrastructure and Safety Improvements Program, or CRISI, which is slated to award more than $1.4 billion in the coming months to projects that enhance safety while getting people and goods to where they need to be. It also includes billions of dollars in investments in Amtrak, our passenger rail partner. Coupled with state investments like the historic $50 million we're celebrating today, we can help change the status quo for the better. We can build more grade separations, removing the possibility of collisions between trains and vehicles entirely. We can build safer crossings and fund improvements that benefit motorists, riders, and pedestrians alike, helping to protect our families and loved ones. With federal and state support, we have an opportunity to put these investments to work in the near term. Thank you again to the governor, to the first responders who are on the scene to deal with the situation, to the Missouri Department of Transportation, the National Transportation Safety Board, and in addition, the FRA inspectors who are on the ground that day and who also participated in the investigation. Everyone working on this vital initiative is so important, and the follow-through is important as well. I thank you again for keeping your efforts ongoing and to keep safety front and center. Missourians will benefit for years to come.
Thank you all for being here today and together continuing making strides in the area of rail safety. That concludes the presentation portion of today's meeting, and I'd like to turn it over to Director McKenna for questions.
All right, again, thanks for being here. Appreciate it. Thank you for the words, the inspiration. I have to readily admit, I'm inspired by the service of our governor. I'm inspired by the service of Chair Hamady. I'm inspired by the service of Administrator Bose. And it takes all of us to feed off each other to make progress and to go forward. So open it up to any questions that you may have. I would imagine you'll probably might gravitate towards someone else, and I'll gladly give up the microphone.
You